The South African mountain bike racing season is underway. The traditional pipe opener, the 19th Momentum Medical Scheme Attakwas Extreme, presented by Biogen, attracted a huge field of riders to the Chandelier Ostrich and Game Farm outside Oudtshoorn.
This is very daunting when you list off all the reasons why we should be scared. But my plan, I've done this race and had a bad day, and I think a lot of people have, and it's usually because you started too hard or you surged too much. So my plan is to go at my own pace and try and keep it conservative in the first half, and then in the second half, hopefully there's still something left in the tank, and then really empty myself at that point. And then part two of the plan is to stay cool as much as possible with ice and water, and then I think part three of the plan is trying to stay mentally positive and strong, because that can also wreck you.
What lay ahead was 125 kilometres through the remote, foreboding and intimidating Attakwas Kloof, with a finish at the Pine Creek Resort in Great Brack River. Along the way, they climbed 2,900 metres.
It's an honour, to be honest, and sometimes you don't really feel like you belong. Just as an example, yesterday when I saw Alan at the briefing, I was more keen to take a photo with him than, feeling like I should be at the briefing with him. I feel like we're grateful, and we don't always see how awesome it is to be able to ride alongside these world-class athletes. It's definitely a privilege, definitely, and it helps progress our field from the grassroots level as well, I would say, because of the inspiration. I personally started riding because I would see Alan doing so well, and Matt, and I would be inspired by these guys to train harder and race harder, so I think it's great for the sport that these guys are at these events and giving it a go.
A few minutes after Hatherly and company had set off, the women's elite batch was preparing for their start. The apprehension masked by nervous smiles, perhaps. The defending champion Samantha Sanders was back, as were former winners Sarah Hill and Yolandi de Villiers. Also likely to be in the podium mix was Hayley Perrine. It was so good to see the growth in the numbers in the women's elite batch on the start line, particularly amongst the younger riders. This is evidence of the impact a long-standing race like the Attakwas Extreme has on those keen to test themselves to the very limit. Coming so early in the year is a great way to gauge race conditioning and training ahead of both road and mountain bike goal events. Geberga's Kelsey van Schoor.
This is always a great race to see how your prep for the season is going, because it's the first race in the season and you have no idea where you are. But it's also such a great race to just enjoy. It's one of those races where you can't really worry about too much what other people are doing, and you just got to focus on your own ride and just try to make it to the finish. It's very tough conditions out there. It's rocky, it's technical, it's hot, so you just got to take it piece by piece. The second water point to the first feed zone for us, you got to take it really easy, because once you get in the kloof, it gets really hard, and even after the kloof, it gets harder. A lot of people told me when I did my first one, after the kloof, it's relatively flat and easy to the finish, but that's a lie. It's these rolling hills, and they take a lot out of you. It's important not to try chase other people, I think, in the start, because a lot of the time people go way too hard in the first 60 Ks and then they end up blowing, and the problem is if you chase them, then they blow, then you blow too. So you just got to sort of ride in your own zone, know your own power that you can hold, and just hold that. And then also nutrition is really key, and hydration, so you got to start eating and drinking from 15 minutes in.
The renowned rock-strewn climb comes early. It's a true test of skill and strength. However, some like classy trail runner Hayley Perrine opted to preserve their legs right now. And soon enough, most were pushing. There's still a long way to go from here. The second water point at Klein Muras Rivier was hectic. The top men were all together as they collected much-needed nutrition from their team support staff. Arno de Toy had other issues on his mind.
I think the pace was quite calm early on, but at around about 24 Ks, the first water point, Alan started making it quite hard, and I just felt something was funky with my shoe. And as we had the first piece we had to run up, couldn't get it out, and the cleat just twisted completely, and I realized I'd lost a cleat bolt. So from there I just sort of cruised in the back of the bunch to the first tech zone, and yeah, luckily the team could help me there to sort it out. Lost contact with the leaders. Yeah, I knew I had to stay calm. That was my plan, even if I was still in the race. So yeah, I stayed calm, rode my own pace, kept it steady, kept myself cool. And yeah, I was happy to just have legs on the last 60 k's of gravel road.
In toward the kloof, things started to get real as cross-country world champion Alan Hatherly showed off his new Jacolula giant off-road kit. He dragged SA Marathon champion Wessel Botha of Team Honeycomb and Ibuko pair Tristan Nortje and Marco Joubert with him. The quartet smashed it through the spectacular terrain. This is the only time riders have the privilege of being here. Du Toit had put in a big training block in Mossel Bay in December, and that was clearly paying off as he set off in pursuit of the leaders on his own. After the retirement of Cadence and Matthijs Bierkes, Arno is one of the strongest elder statesmen on the marathon scene. He knows only too well how to suffer and was determined not to let his race be defined by a lost cleat bolt. 70 to 80 k's in, the rollers through the Bonnydale forests and the top guns checking each other out. Botha was a spent force, but not so Alan Hatherly.
Yeah, for sure. Learned the hard lessons in 22 with those severe conditions. But yeah, luckily this year's edition was a bit more forgiving, I would say. Still no easy feat. It's still one of the hardest events I've done. Not to be taken lightly. But yeah, perfect start to the season for me. Really good opportunity to test the shape, see how the preparation has been. Obviously, this year's a different focus for me, being really road focused for the first part of the year, which is obviously endurance, and that's why this was a perfect test for me just to see where we were at. And first outing on the Giant Anthem as well, which was really cool just to test it. So yeah, overall ticked all the boxes and really enjoyed myself out there. It was a tough one. I think everyone's burnt their matches over the last few years too early here. I think you can definitely see the guys have learned their lessons and have started to pace it a bit better. I'd say, yeah, there wasn't really fireworks until KOM of the day. That's where the pressure started to appear, and obviously the gap started to form there already. And yeah, shortly after that, the hammer went, and then we started to splinter up towards the finish, and then with small groups, and then eventually me solo through to the finish. So yeah, a different kind of race to what I've seen in the past, I would say.
Behind him, Insect Science's Arno Du Toit's legs were firing well. He was on the charge, highly motivated to get onto the podium, and he was closing in on all except Alan Hatherly. Michael Foster was alone in fourth place for Paiga Eurosteel. At the finish at Pine Creek Resort, an expectant crowd awaited the leaders. And 10 minutes short of 5 hours after starting, Alan Hatherly powered onto the lush grass to add his name to the galaxy of stars who've won the Momentum Medical Scheme Attakwas Extreme presented by Biogen. A bubbly celebration for the Olympic bronze medalist and XCO world champion, his first win in the colours of his new team. Also riding for a new team, Ibuko's Tristan Nortje rolled home in second place, 3 minutes and 25 seconds behind Hatherly. Reaping the rewards of his training and a massive solo effort after his shoe problems, Arno Du Toit was third, 3 minutes behind Nortje. While they got to recover and rehydrate, the huge field of brave and bold amateurs were way back on the course, making full use of the superbly stocked water points. For the newbies, it was a rude awakening to the harsh realities of the hell of the south.
Obviously expecting it to be tough, but I don't think that you realise how tough it actually is. Those climbs are monsters. We've been training for the Epic, and we might be doing Tankwa, and we've trained doing climbs, but these climbs are they're short, they're punchy, very, very tough. Yeah, so I think any training that you're doing, you have to do this race. This basically sets the bar for the rest of the season. It's very well supported, the water points are well supported, and the terrain. I mean, if you can ride this terrain, you can ride any other terrain. Coming out of Oudtshoorn, the temperature is very hot, you have to stay hydrated, and not one water point that I got to didn't have ice. They all had ice, they all had supplements. The best supported water points that I've seen in a race in a long, long time. I normally say, chewing rocks, eating nails. It's absolutely crazy the amount of rocks that you have to go through. The terrain is extreme. And that's obviously why it's called the Extreme Attakwas. It is extreme.
That it most certainly is. The terrain, the distance and the difficulty ensured that many found themselves on a solo ride deep in the remote, beautiful Attakwas kloof. A better place to do some introspection there surely cannot be.
Awesome event by Dryland. Attakwas, the famous one. It's my third one. I'm hoping for it to be a PB. So really pushing as hard as I can, keeping in touch with my nutrition, hydration, and just calming and listening to the body, you know? When the body says something, I say, yes, sir. But yeah, awesome event. We're really having fun, but good suffering as well.
It's definitely lived up to its name of Hell of the South, I can tell you that. I think what gets you is the punchy climbs. You know, we've done training. I mean, John and I are training for the Epic, but 2,900 meters of elevation, and it's just those continual punchy climbs that start getting you after 70 Ks. And then it's just about pacing your way home, really. I think the climbs, just the type of climbs, you know, it's relentless climbing and they're steep. You can't just get off the bike and push because you're going to lose too much time, so you've got to have really strong legs, which you don't train everywhere to do that. So we're from Paarl, so we train on Paarl Rock, which is quite steep. But I think if you do want to come and do this, make sure you train on really steep climbs, because that's what's going to get you later in the race.
The Reitersbos School was an opportunity for supporters to see their riders briefly. The riders were under the tent refueling as best they could with around 30 Ks to go. Physio Francois Retief hard at work realigning bums and legs.
It's very easy to burn your matches there. You have to really just watch your watts and pace yourself. So, you know, it's a bit of like nervous tension because you don't want to get caught, but you also don't want to blow. So yeah, I just kind of kept my watts consistent and rode a tempo that I knew I could sustain, but that was also going to be hard to close the gap. It's so early in the season, you don't really want to be peaking right now, but for the confidence, it's great, and also just having faith and trusting that your build-up has been good. You know, now it's just about going and fine-tuning everything, getting a bit more intensity in the legs before we start racing the rest of the season, really.
6 hours and 8 minutes was Sam Sanders' winning time in defence of her title. Hayley Preen marked her first race for Team Honeycomb Racing with an excellent second place. Winner a couple of years ago, Sarah Hill, Sanders' Infiniti Insure teammate, was third. The Attakwas is a truly amazing event, one that every South African mountain biker worth his or her salt should attempt for many reasons.
Dryland does the best events, so I do a couple of them a year. This is my second year doing this one. I'll definitely be back. Like I said earlier, it's nice to see where you're at and get a good perspective as to where you were from the same point the previous year. But yeah, they put on the best events in the country by far. I've never done an event that has outshone Dryland at all. They're phenomenal. They're a great team. They keep on surprising you with slightly different routes, different add-ons to the finish. But they go the full hog. The watering tables, the nutrition that they put out, it's top class.
Another hugely successful edition of the Momentum Medical Scheme Attakwas Extreme presented by Biogen. It's a special race. Go on, put it on your must-ride list for next year.